When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
You are listening to Just Pod, Baby, a Las Vegas Raiders podcast brought to you by silverandblacktoday.com. And now your host, Evan Groat.
And let's go, Raider Nation. And welcome back to Just Pod, Baby, episode 102 on tap for you this week. Just a reminder, Just Pod, Baby is now part of the brand new Vegas Sports Today podcast network. As I'm sure you're aware, Vegas Sports Daily and Silver and Black Today have now merged to form the brand new Vegas Sports Today, and I'm really proud to be a part of the team and to be on the podcast network. So hopefully we continue to grow, and you guys will all come over from Silver and Black Today and join us over at the new Vegas Sports Today. Today, this week, we're going to be joined by a very special guest later in the show, Raiders undrafted free agent wide receiver DJ Turner. We're going to talk to DJ about how things are going out to rookie minicamp in Henderson. And I also want to just talk to him a bit about his journey to the Raiders. He spent some time at the University of Maryland and then transferred to the University of Pitt. So he's got an interesting past, and I want to get into that a little bit with him. But the big news this week that we're going to begin with is the release of the 2021 schedule, and the Raiders are getting things kicked off in a very big way this season on Monday Night Football in prime time against a very tough opponent in the Baltimore Ravens. Now, personally, I'm not a real big fan of these primetime games. It's tough. You know, I'm out here on the East Coast. And when those games aren't starting until 8:20, 8:30, you know, you're not getting those games over with until 11:30, 12 o'clock. That is tough. I got to get up early in the morning for work. And, you know, I'm just not a big fan of it. So, you know, I'll suck it up for a couple weeks. You know that. But I'll do plenty of complaining about it as well. And, you know, really, in week one, I want to get that game done and over with. I want it to be a 1 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday like it was last year at Carolina. I hate waiting around all day Sunday, watching all the other teams play, and then waiting all day Monday. That's tough. I mean, there's so much excitement in the air for the beginning of the season, and to have to wait until 8:20 on Monday night, it's excruciating at times. But it is nice that the Raiders are going to be getting some national recognition, and you know they're going to be featured in 4 primetime games this season. Let me just pull them up right here real quick. Obviously, the week 1 matchup with the Baltimore Ravens, and then again in week 4 at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles against the Chargers. That is a Monday night game. Again, so 2 Monday night games in a 4-week span. And then again in week 10, Sunday Night Football at home versus the Chiefs. That'll be a big one. And then week 12, Thanksgiving Day at the house that Jerry built in Dallas, Big D. That's a 4:30 Eastern time kickoff. Raiders, Cowboys. So that's exciting. Also, there is another game. Not sure what week it is. I think maybe week 16, late in the season in Cleveland. Right now, that's tentatively scheduled to be either Saturday, December 18th, or Sunday, December 19th. So that could be an opportunity if the game is on a Saturday that they could pick up a 5th primetime game as well. Now, what I want to do here is I want to take a kind of a deeper dive into the schedule and get you just some of my thoughts and my opinions on the schedule and how it kind of played out. The first thing that I like to do when the schedule or when the list of opponents comes out, okay, when you find out who are the home games, who are the away games, and then, of course, once the schedule is officially released, the first thing that I do, I like to pay attention to who are the quarterbacks that the Raiders are going to be facing. And I see only one elite level quarterback on the schedule this year, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And of course, they will be facing the Chiefs twice this year. Now, after Mahomes, you have a couple of really good quarterbacks, but as of right now, I'm not ready to crown them in that elite category. And that is Justin Herbert, who they're going to face twice, Dak Prescott, and Lamar Jackson. Now, Ben Roethlisberger, I know they face him in week 2. He's a future Hall of Famer. I don't want to throw any shade at him or any disrespect to him in any way. He's a great one, and he's got some weapons around him still. And he can still play at a very high level, I think. But I also know that Lamar Jackson is a former MVP in this league, and I've seen Dak Prescott throw for like 5,000 yards and what, he had like 40 touchdowns there a couple years ago. So, again, some really good quarterbacks. But the point I'm making is that the Raiders are not going to be facing a gauntlet of top-end quarterbacks during the season. And I think that's really an important factor because, as you know, I believe the NFL is a quarterback-driven league, and when you have to deal with these elite quarterbacks week in, week out, they can sometimes win games single-handedly. I just don't see that caliber of guy on the schedule, so I do like that. Now, the second part of the schedule release that I like to focus on is when is each game being played, of course, right? We hear a lot of talk about strength of schedule, and I do think that data carries some weight. It does. But you have to remember, those numbers are based on the previous season's records and previous season's winning percentages. And the NFL is just such a year-to-year league, and it's week-to-week, that sometimes once the games begin, it means very little, right? Once the season begins, it means very little what a team did in 2020. Now, that being said, I do want to mention, I'm going to at least mention it, the strength of schedule. The Raiders have the 8th most difficult schedule, according to their opponent's 2020 win percentage, which is at a 526, by the way. That's 142 wins, 128 losses, and 2 ties in 2020. And I saw an article on The Athletic the other, I think it was yesterday. It was on Wednesday. And it discussed the strength of schedule, but rather than basing it on opponents' records from the previous year, it used projected win totals for the upcoming season, and that was according to BetMGM in this specific article. And I really liked it. I think this might be a better way to come up with a truer idea of strength of schedule, because it takes into account a lot of things that has happened since the completion of the 2020 season. We're talking about free agent acquisitions, draft picks, coaching changes, trades and whatnot. So there's a lot of other factors that go into when Vegas comes up with these futures, right? Wins, over, under, wins, losses, and all that kind of thing. Now, unfortunately, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, the Raiders, they rank second with the most difficult schedule behind only the Steelers. Now, according to the BetMGM, the Raiders' opponents are projected to win 152 games combined. That was only one game behind Pittsburgh, which was 153, I believe. And I think that was like an average of like 9.5 wins. So that's when you look at it from that perspective, that does give you some pause. But again, this is all based on projections, and as I said, once live bullets start flying, a lot can change. So my question to you is, what do you guys think? Do you prefer to use the old strength of schedule format where you're looking at previous years' win totals and win percentage, or do you think it's a better way to go about it to look at what Vegas thinks? How many games are these teams going to win? What's the futures win totals look like for 2021? So let me know what you think. Reach out to me on Twitter and give me some of your thoughts. But I want to get back to my original point here, and that's, when are the specific games placed into the schedules? When do they travel to Arrowhead? When are those East Coast trips? Are there any back-to-back East Coast trips? How about the bye week? When's that happening? Who's on the schedule the final 5 weeks of the season? These are all factors that need to be considered when I'm trying to come up with a projection in my head or a prediction for a win-loss record. These are some of the factors that I like to look at. So when I look at the schedule, I really like the fact that the Raiders are getting Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Miami early in the season, weeks 1 through 3, in fact. I think that's a good thing for the Raiders. Hopefully everyone at that point is at full health and clicking, playing well. Hopefully, I know it's early in the season. You got some young players. How quick can they come around? That'll be a factor as well. But again, I think the health, what we saw last year, the health is a big factor. Mid-season, we saw a lot of players going down. So the fact that they're going to play a couple really tough teams early in the season, that looks good for the Raiders. And don't forget, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, they were both in the playoffs last year. Miami just missed, so I think that will be a great test out of the gate to begin the season. We're going to learn an awful lot about this team very early on and if this defense is up for the task. Now, I think weeks 5 through 9 really line up well. I like the way the schedule plays out weeks 5 through 9. They start out with a home game in week 5 versus Chicago, and who knows what the quarterback situation is going to look like for them. Is it going to be Andy Dalton still who maintains that job, or will it be the rookie Justin Fields out of Ohio State? Will Fields win the job out of camp? Who knows? So I think that's a game that, depending on how that Chicago Bears defense plays, it's a winnable game, for the Raiders. Then they go on the road for their second divisional game at Denver. The weather should not be a factor that early in the season. Let's hope it's not Aaron Rodgers at the helm for Denver. Again, they got a quarterback kind of issue right now. Is it going to be Teddy Bridgewater, who they brought in just before the draft, or Drew Lock? He struggled earlier in his career, so that's another very winnable game for the Raiders. And then in week 7, they're home. They welcome in the Philadelphia Eagles, who were horrendous a year ago. New coach, Jalen Hurts, is going to be in his first full year as a starter. And I think that this team is in the midst of a transition. I wouldn't necessarily call it a rebuild, but they do have a new coach. The roster is really weak. I know they brought in a wide receiver, kid out of Bama, Devontae Smith, right, who should be very dynamic in the league. But again, another very winnable game on paper against the Eagles. And then they get the bye week in week 8. And I think you have to be pretty satisfied with a bye week, at essentially the halfway point in your schedule. I can't imagine too many NFL coaches are complaining about that. And another good thing about the bye week that I really like is it comes a week before a long East Coast trip to MetLife Stadium to face the Giants in early November. And these East Coast trips to MetLife Stadium have not really been kind to the Raiders in the past 2 years. They struggled to beat the Jets a year ago, and in 2019 they lost to the Jets. They were blown out by the Jets, in fact, in MetLife. So, I like the fact that they're going to have the week to prepare for the Giants. And it's going to be windy and it's going to be chilly in Jersey. And say what you want about the Giants from a year ago. They're going to have Saquon Barkley back. They've added some weapons for Daniel Jones. They got it. They brought in Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney from Florida through the draft, and they added some juice to that pass rush with another player that I really liked out of the draft, Azeez Ojulari. So don't overlook the G-men. I like the young coach as well, and I think they're a team that might surprise some people in the NFC East division in 2021. Now, I think what the Raiders have to do here when I look at the schedule is they have to be able to get through those first 8 games in decent shape, much like they have been able to do in each of the past 2 seasons when they started out 6-4 and 6-3. I think that's going to be a key element to this season, is getting off to another, decent start. I can't quite tell you right now what that is, but again, if they could start out 6-3 like they did last year, that's going to be key going in for this team going into the second half of the season. Now, the big question is going to be, obviously, can they finish, right? The final 9-game stretch, in my opinion, is much more difficult to navigate than the previous 8 games. And don't forget, they're playing 17 games this year, right? That's kind of thrown me off a couple times already. In that time, right, in the final 9 games, they're going to play 4 playoff teams from a year ago, and that includes the Chiefs twice in a 5-week span. Okay, week 10 and week 14, they play the Chiefs twice. Then they play the Cowboys, as I mentioned at the top, on Thanksgiving Day. And again, say what you want about the Cowboys. Last year, it was not pretty in Big D, but that offense, they can score some points, and they will score some points. I'm assuming Dak Prescott is going to come back fully healthy, and that defense was every bit as bad as the Raiders, don't get me wrong, from a year ago. This one could be a really fun game to watch. It's going to be Thanksgiving. I'm really looking forward to it. I expect that to be a high-scoring game, and then don't forget, that's going to be on a short week. That's one of the things I wanted to throw out there. That Cowboys game is on a short week. They're coming off of a home game on November 21st versus the Bengals. So don't overlook that Thursday afternoon Thanksgiving game with the Cowboys as well. And as for the final 5 games, which is something that I'm paying close attention to this year, particularly because of what has happened in the last 2 seasons, I think these could very well maybe decide the Raiders' fate, as far as the playoffs is concerned. And in those final 5 games, they start out with, let me take a look at this. Road game in Kansas City. Okay, that's going to be tough. December 12th. It's going to be cold, and it's going to be loud there, right? And I know what you're saying. Oh, but the Raiders, Derek Carr, they exercised those demons last year in 2020, those Arrowhead demons. I get it. And I have faith that they can do it again. But Arrowhead, at full capacity, 65, 70,000 people strong in December, that's just a whole other animal. Okay, so you got to definitely keep that in mind. Then they turn around again and hit the road for Cleveland on a Saturday or a Sunday game. That's still to be determined, and that's back-to-back road games. That is the only time in the season that the Raiders will have back-to-back road games against 2 very good playoff caliber teams who fully expected to be there again, followed by a home game versus Denver. Then it's on the road again at Indianapolis, another team that is projected for double-digit wins according to what I saw online. 10 wins, in fact, they're projected. And then it's back home for the season finale against the Chargers, a team that played them very tough last year, a divisional opponent. So 3 of the final 5 games on the road, and 3 of the final 5 games against teams who were in the playoffs in 2020 and are fully expected to get back there again in 2021. So with all that being said, I'm not going to make any win-loss projections here right now. I'm going to save that for when training camp finishes up. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders in a similar situation as they have been in 2019 and 2020 when they were in the driver's seat to make a run at the playoffs. But it will absolutely come down to whether or not this team can finish. And I would assume that after being in position each of the last 2 seasons, you're going to grow on that. You're going to learn from the missteps. Both the coaches, both the players, everyone in the organization is going to do everything in their power not to let that happen again. And I think that if they are in position again, they'll be much more prepared to make the next step this season. All right, I'm going to get to a quick break, and when I return, we'll be joined by rookie wide receiver DJ Turner. Don't go anywhere.
I just think this is a good draft class, has a chance. I mean, really, when you look at the needs that the Raiders had, continue to improve the offensive line. They moved on from a number of core players there. And I think defensively, you have to have guys that can rush the passer, and you have to have guys that can cover on the back end. And I think that's been a real weak spot for the Raiders for the last couple of years. You can't keep giving up 30 points each week and expect to win in this league. And when you look around the division at the team speed of the Chiefs and a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you better have guys that can be disruptive in terms of rushing the passer and guys that can cover. And I think that was a big focus not only in the draft but also in free agency.
And welcome back to Just Pod Baby. There you heard the voice of former Raiders quarterback Rich Gannon talking about the 2021 draft and improving defensively. Now, speaking of the draft, not every prospect here has named called, but oftentimes that doesn't matter. It's all about getting an opportunity, and that is the case for our next guest this week, who was signed by the Raiders as an undrafted free agent. Let's say hello to Raiders rookie wide receiver DJ Turner.
How you guys doing, man?
DJ, thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us a few minutes here. I'm really interested in your journey to the Raiders as an undrafted free agent. So let's start there. You played 4 years with the University of Maryland before ending your collegiate career at Pittsburgh. If you don't mind, share with us a little bit about your decision to move on from Maryland and enroll in the ACC with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I made that decision kind of like right at the start of August camp. So the Big Ten had canceled their season because of COVID, and I had wanted to play, so I made the decision to kind of move on and try to figure out a conference that I could play in, which was either the Pac-12 or the ACC. And I had some ties over at Pittsburgh, so it was kind of a no-brainer.
So that's interesting. So you actually made that decision in August, and then you were ready to go by the beginning of the season in the fall?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, too, because I actually got to Pittsburgh. Like, my first week of practice was actually the week right before game week. So I didn't have much time to kind of pick up the offense, but I did as much as I could and went out for the first week and actually balled out too. So it kind of worked out.
That's really incredible that you were able to make all that happen so fast and get yourself ready with, really less than like 2 weeks. And you really had a fine season in 2020 with Pitt. You got a good opportunity there and you made the most of it. You caught 44 passes for 634 yards with 3 touchdowns. But the area where you may have excelled the most is in the return game, as both a kickoff and a punt return specialist. It sounds like you're just a really well-rounded football player. But in your own words, what do you think your greatest strength is?
I would just say my versatility. Like you said, I feel like I'm a very well-rounded football player. Just being able to contribute on offense as a slot receiver or outside receiver, and I could even play a little bit of running back as well too. And then what I bring to the return game is definitely a plus as well too. So all that stuff I feel like could help any team, especially the Raiders. So that's what I plan to do.
Now you mentioned versatility. Are you primarily where are you more comfortable, in the slot or on the outside? I know your size. You're 5'9", 200 pounds. I think I saw you listed at. So were you used primarily throughout your college career in the slot? Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, so primarily I do feel a little bit more comfortable in the slot, but due to the circumstances this year at Pitt, like I kind of had to get in where I could fit in, so I had to play a lot more outside receiver than I was used to, and it kind of just gave me the opportunity to kind of expand my game a little bit too, just working on that every day and trying to become a better complete receiver. I think it definitely gave me more opportunities moving on to the next level because. In this league, it's kind of like especially like if you're not like the number one guy, you kind of got to be able to know everything or be able to play everything to stick around for as long as you can. So that's pretty much what I'm planning on doing.
Absolutely. Now, Raiders undrafted free agent wide receiver DJ Turner is our guest this week on Just Pod Baby. So, DJ, you were going through this whole draft process, all the preparation that goes into it. You were working out for teams during pro days and whatnot, and then the draft comes, right? And you don't hear your name called, and I'm sure that was disappointing. But then you have to go through this whole other process where the teams are now reaching out to you as a free agent to see if you're interested in joining their team. And I think in most cases, and you can, if I'm wrong, you can tell me this, but I think in most cases, this can be really beneficial to a prospect like yourself because now you get to kind of pick and choose the team that you feel gives you the best opportunity and a team that's a good fit for you and your style of play. So what was it that attracted you to signing with the Las Vegas Raiders?
I felt like when I looked at I sat down with like my family and my agent, we looked over the roster and they were pretty big on bringing in a return guy, and I felt like it was just the best situation for me overall with the receivers that they had. Like I felt like it was a lot of people I could come in and learn from early and try to kind of shadow as much as I could, and then get opportunity to actually play a little bit as a returner. And then, it's Las Vegas. Like I don't know who wouldn't want to come there to play and be a part of that program. And they have a great coach with John Gruden, and there's great history behind the team too. So I kind of factored all that in when it came to making a decision. It was kind of a no-brainer as well.
Yeah, and I think you made a great choice. You talked about the need for a return guy, and I think you're 100% accurate. I followed this team my whole entire life and very closely, especially the last few years, and you're right on the money there. They do need a return guy, and I think that works out really well for you. And I think you also picked a great spot because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, But in recent years, the Raiders, they've kept many of their undrafted free agents. They've made the roster, and they've stuck around, and some of them have earned starting roles. Andre James, who is the center, is going to be competing for a starting job this year. He was an undrafted guy out of UCLA. Alec Ingold, the fullback. Jalen Richard, who's one of the running backs, and even the punter, A.J. Cole, just to name a few guys. So that has to give you some confidence knowing that the Raiders are an organization that isn't afraid to roll with some undrafted players. And I think in your situation, you mentioned you can contribute as a return man. You have a niche that can really help your chances of making the team. So what's some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we looked at it. We looked at all that when it came to trying to make a decision, and then even being there for rookie minicamp, they talked about having like that underdog mentality and going into my career with that mentality. I feel like the sky's the limit. So and like they brought up all those names, and a lot of guys from the past who played for the Raiders that went undrafted, or late round guys that are Hall of Famers now. So I feel like the sky's the limit, and I could get out as much as I put into it, and it's all possible for me to make it happen. So.
Yeah, now last year around this time, I had Jalen Richard on the show, and again, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to meet him or not, but he is one of the running backs on the team. I think he's in his 4th or 5th year now. He's on a second contract with the team. And during our conversation, we spoke about his rookie year when he was going, through much of what you're experiencing right now, the same situation that you are in now. And he talked about, he set goals for himself going into mini camp and training camp. Each day, his goal was to go out there and try to make a play every day to make himself stand out. And over time, he was able to do that. And he built himself like a little resume. And that made it very, very difficult for the coaches to keep him off the roster. And I think there is some value in speaking with some of the veterans on the team who have experienced what you're going through right now. So I'm curious, have you had the chance to reach out to speak to any of those guys who were undrafted guys, or if you have not yet, maybe do you plan to in the future?
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to meet any of the veterans yet, but I'm looking forward to it when I get out there on Sunday, and I can't wait to kind of be a sponge to those guys and soak everything in and just try to repeat what they're doing. So definitely looking forward to making the most out of that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be definitely a smart plan there. Now, I know you've only had a couple of practices out there in Vegas, but what has it been like to work with Coach Gruden so far and some of his staff?
It's been great because just I've watched them on TV for I don't know how many years now. Just the chance to actually finally meet him and get to hold his, shake his hand and actually see what he's like in person. It was great, and just trying to keep up with everything. They like to do a lot of different things on offense, so it's like you gotta learn quick and be able to mix and mingle around in that offense. And I feel like they're doing a great job of kind of helping us learn everything. For me in general, and I can't like I said, I can't say enough how grateful I am with the opportunity of them bringing me in too. So.
DJ Turner, Raiders rookie wide receiver, is our guest tonight on Just Pod Baby, doing a great job here, giving us some insight. Now, one other thing I want to ask you about, just last year, the Raiders, I'm sure you're aware, moved into their brand new stadium, Allegiant Stadium, and an all-new state-of-the-art practice facilities and team headquarters out in Henderson. What has been your first impressions of the new facilities and everything that it has to offer to the players?
So far, I've only got to see the practice facility. But it's great. It's probably the nicest facility I've ever been in or ever got a chance to see in person. And I can't wait to actually see the stadium or actually get a chance to get inside of it. So far, I haven't got to see it yet. I'm sure at some point during these OTAs or camp, I'll get the opportunity. But I can't wait.
That's great. And I'm always curious when I talk to the players, when I interview players. I've asked a few other guys this. Could you take us through, and again, I know there's only been a handful of practices, but if you could just kind of walk us through what a typical work day looks like during your first couple rookie mini camp practices. Do they primarily have you working, just on the field, or is there a combination of on the field work mixed in with some meetings in the classroom, or did they have you guys Zooming at all? So just kind of give us a little bit of insight onto what they put you guys through.
It's a good combination of both meetings and field work. So like it's more meetings than anything. It's like you come in, you eat, we'll meet, or we'll be in the facility, but we'll still have to meet on Zoom, and then get a chance to do some walkthroughs, more meetings, and then at least for this last rookie camp, we just had about an hour and a half on the field, and that was about it. But like I said, it's a good mix of both.
Yeah, it sounds like they keep you guys pretty busy. Now, I have one final question for you, DJ, and you're doing a great job here. Besides yourself, of course, because I know you're out there making plays, I'm sure, are there any other guys out at rookie minicamp that you think are standing out, doing a nice job, stepping up, making some plays out there?
Yeah, I mean, everybody that I've got to actually see practicing has looked good. I know a couple of names because I got to work with Dylan Stone, and he was the other receiver there.
Right.
He looked very good working, and then I kind of got a chance to know Devery Hamilton before because we're kind of from the same area, and we actually caught the same flight out there, so we got to talk a little bit on the way there. So I tried to keep an eye out for him, and he looked pretty good as well. So, but I mean, even the coaches had a lot of good stuff to say about everybody after the rookie mini camp. So from what I can hear, at least I didn't really get to watch everybody, but from what I can hear, everybody kind of impressed. So looking forward to seeing what everybody could bring to the table when we actually out there and full go.
Well, that's great to hear, DJ, and it sounds like you're definitely on the right track, headed in the right direction. And I thank you so much for giving us, some of your time tonight. It was great to chat with you, and you definitely got a new fan in me. And I'm rooting hard for you to stick around with this organization. We wish you all the best. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you for having me.
All right, so that was my interview with DJ Turner, undrafted free agent wide receiver for the Raiders, and I got to tell you, that's an incredible story that he shared with us about how, he's playing in the Big Ten with Maryland, and he finds out that his season is now canceled. And because he loves the game, right, he wants to continue his career, and that is something that Gruden must have loved, Mayock must have loved. So he says, you know what, I'm transferring. And mid-August decides he's transferring into the ACC to play with Pitt, and gets to campus, has 1 week to practice before the first game. Think about that. 1 week. Just gets on campus. And he goes out there, I looked up the stats, leads the team in receiving with 76 yards, and had a 51-yard touchdown catch. A couple punt returns. So that's incredible. That's just incredible. And that shows you how much this kid loves the game. So DJ, hats off to you, and I wish you all the best in your journey here with the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, so I do want to touch on one final thing here before I wrap it up this week. At the end of last week's episode, when we were chatting with our good friend Q Myers, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast, he mentioned that he saw a tweet about Casey Hayward signing with the Raiders. And of course, we learned that did not happen at that point in time, but it did happen a couple of days later. So I want to at least comment on that briefly. The Raiders did sign Casey Hayward. My feelings on this. I talked about it a little bit last time, how I thought that we would see a veteran get added to this roster, whether it was Richard Sherman or a guy like Casey Hayward. Obviously the being familiar with Gus Bradley, that made a lot of sense as to why I thought that could be a fit for him. So I like the move. Does he have something left in the tank? I think so. I believe he's only 30 years old. It was just a couple years ago. He was playing at a pretty high level, and so I'm happy about that. They bring him in. He instantly becomes probably their top corner, right? I would say that's fair to say, and he can be that veteran guy there in the secondary who can lead some of these young players, help teach them Bradley's system. And I think the question that maybe some of you are still wondering is, where is he going to play? Will it be on the outside? Will it be in the slot? Because he can do both. I think it's going to be on the outside. I think you're going to see him starting along with Trayvon Mullen, and that leaves that slot job up for grabs right now. I would say Damon Arnett is a candidate they'd like to see win that job. He did have some experience playing there in college. Maybe that's where he's better suited. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. They also have Nevin Lawson, who's going to be serving that 2-game suspension to start the season. He played a lot there last year for the Raiders, so there's plenty of experience under his belt. I'd like to see him make a few more plays How about a pass PBU once in a while, or interception now and then, right? That would be nice. And then, of course, they still have Amick Robertson, who was 5th round draft pick from a year ago, who a lot of people were very excited about. So those are a couple of names to keep an eye on. Also, the rookie Nate Hobbs out of Illinois. He might be a guy that you could also keep an eye on. He has some experience playing in the slot as well. So I at least wanted to throw those comments out there about the signing of Casey Hayward. All right, Raider Nation, that is going to do it for this week's edition of Just Pod Baby. Hope you enjoyed that interview there with DJ Turner. And do 2 things for me, please, before we say goodnight. Number 1, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast so you don't miss out on anything. Number 2, give me a follow on Twitter, eGroat5. eGroat5. All right, guys. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And until the next time, I am your host, Evan Groat. This is Just Pod Baby. And as always, just win, baby.